Cyril. You guys quizzed right before we went to break on our plant life cycle, so we're moving on to lesson numero dos.
Animal life cycle.
Which is the life cycles of animals. And so we're adding to our board a little bit of new vocabulary and our new question. So your new question is, how are life cycles of animals similar? We learned, I think my mic's, there we go. We learned that in plant life cycles, they all have a seed. The seed will germinate, it will grow, it will reproduce, and the life cycle keeps on.
Keep on going.
So you guys, class? Uh-oh. Class. You're a little bit more familiar with animal life cycles because you're animals. And you know a little bit more about human life cycles and other animals, particularly because we studied a whole lot about animals in science. But there's some vocab words that you might not know yet. Are you ready?
Yes, we are.
My first word is birth.
Birth.
Who can describe to me what birth is? Rylan.
It means like you birth like a baby.
So it's when a new baby is
Born.
very good. So we called that reproduction for our plant life cycle. It's reproduction in an animal life cycle too. However, when a new plant grows, we don't call it the birth of a new plant. We just say a new plant germinated or reproduced. With animals and humans, which are animals, we would call that birth, when the actual offspring is created. Capiche? How about offspring? We talked about this a little bit before. River?
Babies of living things.
Babies of living things. So it can be a child baby. It could be a little baby kitty. It could be a baby giraffe. It could be any animal in the entire world. But that would be called the offspring. My next word is metamorphosis. What is it?
Metamorphosis. Look, it's floating.
Who can tell me what metamorphosis is? Or even give me an example of an animal that goes through metamorphosis. Riley?
It's a noodle floating.
It is changing. Can anybody expand on that? Tell me some more, Dex. Brielle?
Butterfly.
How does a butterfly go through metamorphosis?
It starts out as a caterpillar and then it goes into a cocoon or chrysalis and then it
Very good. Do you think, show me with your fingers. 1 if you think yes. 2 if you think no. Do you think all animals go through metamorphosis? Yes or no? Seeing some no's, I'm seeing some yeses. That's what we're going to find out. So our big question is, how are the life cycles of all animals similar? And we're ready to start. So, focus.
Everybody focus.
That is our next lesson, and we're still talking about parents and offspring, but specifically animals. And so there's a little life cycle stage here, and this is actually in your workbook. So please pull out your workbook. Nope, your science workbook. And this is going to be on page 140. What page is it on?
140.
Rylan, what page are we going to be on?
140.
Good. Landon, what page are we going to be on? All right, everyone's getting there in about 10, 9, 8, 7.
Got it.
What page is it?
140.
Okay, time for all this stuff to go back in my deck. Hey Riley, this is the one.
Okay, as my last friends are getting clipped there. Oh, Jay, workbook instead of textbook, the one that you can write in. Looking at this life cycle, it's got kind of a what comes first, the chicken or the egg thing, right? So it looks like we've got some eggs. The eggs hatch into little chickies. The chickie grows, and then that chick grows into an adult chicken, which is again going to lay eggs. Fun fact, just kind of a side note to this. we got an email from Mr. DeVries over the weekend about embryology. So he's already making plans so that we for sure get to hatch chicks, whether we're still in school and we get to do it here, or if we get kicked back to online learning, he still has a plan so that we will learn it no matter what.
Who?
Sound good?
Mr. Who?
Mr. DeVries, he started doing embryology for us last year. Dax, you need to check that math,
We
dude.
get to hatch chicks.
We do. That's one of the special things in third grade.
I've done that before.
So,
We can just
Tootsie Rolls.
Are we gonna sit on
All right,
it?
scientists.
No.
My question to you. My question to you is, which animals go through a life cycle that's similar to the stages of a chicken? And so in your workbooks, you should be on page 140, and they have a list of animals. And the animals include a butterfly, a horse, a duck, a snake, a turtle, lizard, cat, crow, and mouse. Would you go ahead and circle the animals that you think have a similar life cycle to a chicken? Various, like, they start as an egg, they hatch, they grow, become an adult, and lay more eggs. Go ahead and circle the animals that you think lay eggs and go through a similar life cycle as a chicken. Give you a moment here to do this. Online friends, this will be on your slides.
What's a crow?
A crow is a type of bird, it looks like a blackbird. They're the ones that you usually see, like by scarecrows, those big blackbirds. Addison, it should be page 140, 140.
Oh.
Wait, are chicken strips made out of chicken?
Stand up if you think a butterfly goes through a similar life cycle. A handful of you. Stay standing if you think a horse goes through a similar life cycle. Well, I don't know about you online friends, but I only have 2 standing here. Stay standing if you think a duck lays eggs and goes through a similar life cycle. How about a snake? Some of us are not sure about that. How about a turtle? A lizard? A cat? A lot of people sat down there. A crow?
Oh yeah, crow.
A mouse? Down below, before you write, I want to give you a chance to talk with your neighbors. So it says, explain your thinking. How did you decide if those animals' life cycle stages were similar to a chicken? Some of you might have said, well, I had to think if there were eggs or not. Or I know that this happens for this animal and this happens for a chicken. When you turn and talk with your neighbor, talk to them about how you decided which animals to circle. What were some factors that you thought about that made you think, yeah, this is similar to a chicken, or no, it's not? Are you ready? Teach.
Yeah.
Online friends, this is going to be in your slides, so you can talk with mom or dad if you would like to, or even talk with Mrs. Martin or myself, but think about, how did you decide? What was your thinking process? What made you decide, yes, this is similar to a chicken, or no, it's different, okay? Alrighty, class. I'm looking for a group of scientists who's ready to tell me, how did you decide? What were some things that you thought of when you were picking the animals that had a similar life cycle to a chicken? Jade.
So I think a duck, crow, and snake, and maybe the turtle and the lizard.
How come?
I think that the lizard and the turtle lay eggs too.
So Jade looked through her animals and thought, do I think this animal lays eggs or not? And those are the ones that she chose. Did anybody think of something different when they were choosing? Savannah?
Well, not like different, but I know that turtles grow in an egg, and also that chickens grow in an egg. And for a fact, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this, but turtles breathe through their butts, according to Olaf von Carson.
But does that have anything to do with our life cycles that we talked about?
No. No, according
So
to
Savannah thought about
Wikipedia.
the eggs also. Keegan?
According to Wikipedia.
Oh, so he added also that the mother protects the young, there's eggs, and what was your third thing? And what were your reasons for it? They lay eggs, their mother protects the young.
There are birds,
Oh, birds.
eggs, and protect their young.
Good. Did anybody else just choose birds? No? Gunnar, did you just choose birds? No? Alright, well let's go ahead and move on to the next bit here. There are some different jobs that just study these animals and what they do, but some animals don't quite fit the mold. So Keegan listed birds because we know that birds lay eggs, right? We learned that in science. Do mammals usually lay eggs?
No.
No. What do we know about mammals? River.
Animals, like, usually they come out of something like their moms and like.
Do you remember what we called that when we were learning and reading? They have live births, right? And so, duck-billed platypus is one animal that does not fit the mold. He's kind of a rule breaker. And so a duck-billed platypus actually is a mammal. However, they're odd because they live on land and in water. They have kind of like flippers almost. And they have a beak. They also lay eggs. So there's lots of random things. They're kind of like the jack of all trades, right? They've got lots of traits that make them fit into many animal groups. However, they're still mammals. And so my question for you is, what are questions that you have about a duck-billed platypus? And I know that some of you already know things. We will share those. But first I want to know, what questions do you have? And I'm going to jot them down on my page 141 here. River, what's the question you have?
Isn't platypus a mammal or an amphibian?
So you want to know what animal, what group is it classified as, right?
We write down.
Nope, you do not have to write these ones down. I'm jotting down your guys' notes as long as you are participating. Mr. Dingle, what do you want to know about platypuses? Oh, beak made of bone?
They don't have sensors. Yes, it is.
Oh, make sure that you save your voices for when you're asking questions. Dax, what do you want to know? Okay, so you might want to know, what parts of them are made of bone. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. Addison, what questions do you have?
Does it have an egg tooth?
Egg tooth. Ooh, because she knows something about some other animals with eggs, huh? And other animals that hatch. Rylan.
Why does it look like a duck's beak?
Aha. So I might say, why does it have a beak? Oh, but that doesn't really explain why it has a beak. It just kind of explains that, yeah, its beak is like a duck's. Keegan? So do you have a question about the platypus? Skylar?
How many bones does it have, or does it have bones?
How many bones? Or does it have bones? Okay.
Yeah.
Ellie?
Probably does.
You guys have lots of great questions. I'll come back to you. Oh. Ooh. Okay. Eli?
They have sensors in their beak because
Do you have a question or a fact for us? Save the facts for now, because what I'm going to do is we're actually going to do kind of a fun project about duck-billed platypuses at the end. And so I'm going to post these questions up on our back board. And I will let you guys kind of use your stickies to answer them like we did in reading on CKLA. Capiche? If you have an extra question that we haven't heard yet, go ahead and jot it down on yours, and we'll add it to our chart later, okay? So jot that down, and I'm going to start reading to you about a wildlife biologist. So as you guys are looking at this person, I'm actually going to be reading the one on page 141, and then I'll have one of you read my slide here. Because Poppy, the park ranger, is explaining to us that a wildlife biologist needs to understand the life cycles of the animals that she studies.
Wait, that's Poppy in life?
No, it's a different person in real life. But she explains, my job as a wildlife biologist lets me work with many interesting animals. I spent some time in Australia, where I studied the duck-billed platypus.
Initials.
The duck-billed platypus is a fascinating mammal.
Riley.
I spent time with them in their natural habitat to learn their behaviors.
Riley.
I learned about their life cycle, which is different from most other mammals. I took several pictures and wrote notes so that I could share what I learned with others. Some days I work in the office and use other scientists' research to learn more about the duck-billed platypus. Who can expand on this and tell me some more by reading my slide on the board here? What else do we know about an animal, or excuse me, a wildlife biologist? River, can you read it loud and proud?
A wildlife biologist works with many different animals. They study animals in nature
And their
and
natural
habitat. They learn about their behaviors.
Wait.
A wildlife biologist needs to understand the life cycles of the animals he studies.
Good. So we're going to use this information plus the information from the yellow notebook part to answer some questions. Now, because we've been having a hard time staying focused, this is going to be a science grade. All right, so you have to be able to find these by page 142. What page? We're going to talk about them together, but your notes are going to be your own participation grade in science today. So, in your workbook, numero uno. We already shared, you gotta be listening. I'm on page 142. Problem numero uno. Which part of the world did the wildlife biologist study the duck-billed platypus? Ooh, you might have to go back and find that on page 141 before this, if you weren't listening when I read it. What part of the world did the wildlife biologist study the duck-billed platypus? Oh, this is your own grade, so don't blurt it out for your neighbors. Go back and find it. I would go back and find it in the part where Poppy's explaining it. She studied the platypus in You can find this by turning back a page and reading in that yellow notebook. My job as a wildlife biologist lets me work with many interesting animals. I spent time. Blah, 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 blah. If you have finished this one, then you can be searching for the answer to my next question. What does the wild online girls? You are going to be using the clips from your slides, which has the yellow notebook part with Poppy explaining wildlife biologist to answer these questions. So go ahead and flip to your slides for the day, and this is going to help you be thinking what career studies, animal life cycles, what do they do, and start thinking about some different things that they have to observe about animals so that we can be thinking about what are different parts of animal life cycles and how are those similar to other animals. Good luck.